for me youth, and me tell it to him. Say, daddy had to follow a dream. Make sure me youth if you know I want. Yeah, me nah fear no man.
If you can do it, then so is I. That's not the thing you do it twice as night. No man supernatural man. So me can't feel no man, yeah. No man, yeah. So me can't feel man. Yeah. Can't feel no man. Levels.
Radio on this side of the hemisphere.
This morning, we are talking about this matter. When it comes to artists, they end up broke for some reason. We see them on our screens, we see them on our stages, we see them everywhere, living this lavish life, and then suddenly we are told so-and-so is bankrupt, so-and-so doesn't have a place to live. What a one, like what's happening?
There's so many things that get artists into those situations. I think the first one is that South African artists want to mimic the lifestyle of their American counterparts. We want to drive those cars, we want to pop those bottles, we want to wear those labels, we want to be seen with those girls, and we can't afford it because we are not paid as much as those artists. America is huge. It's a country of states. We have one state in South Africa. An American can travel just America and make millions.
Come on! Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 1873FM. Hashtag 1873FM. The hardest radio on this side of the hemisphere. 1873 FM.
Do you realize that, Naledi, we are talking of private companies?
Definitely.
Imagine you as an individual, you start up your own company, your business. I mean, you've put whatever you've put into it every day, your effort. Then somebody comes and states that, no, just because I'm black, I should have 50%.
No, that's not what it says. It says 50% black people should also be allowed in the same business.
But why should it be forced on you?
It's not forced, Nashe. You must remember that sometimes black people don't get hired because they are black. Remember, most of these things are owned by white people. And white people, unlike us, they take care of their own.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 1873FM. Hashtag 1873FM.
Roger. Frequency modulation engaged. Resume worldwide music stream in 3, 2, 1.
Hello. Здравствуй. Ciao.
Shalom. Bonjour.
สวัสดี Konnichiwa.
What's up, world?
Good songs.
Day long.
It's number one.
Most awesome thing ever.
This is
One of the coolest stations in the world.
From 1873 to present, and introspect to your heritage.
Can we say behind every successful woman is a lazy nigga? I don't know. What do you say?
No, definitely not. I think behind every successful woman is another successful woman.
Oh, I like
So I
that.
definitely think that women look out for each other. There's a misconception that we're always attacking each other or something. But I definitely think that we do tend to look after each other.
Definitely.
One piece of advice I always give to young people is that they need to understand how finances work.
Empowering the mind. Enriching the nation. 1873 FM. 1873. 1873.
I know leadership exists, but now my co-host over here, we now need to convince him. He doesn't believe that leaders exist. He doesn't believe leadership does exist. And anytime someone says they are a leader, he asks for their address because he always says, where can I find this leader? What is this leader's address? How do we convince him that leaders do indeed exist?
You don't feel that you must be the first person to do it, but there's always somebody who will say, okay, let me take the book, let's write what we need to do here, where do we need to start. There's always that person who will facilitate for people to problem solve. And I think for me, initially, those are the small attributes of being a leader.
It starts with us, and we are the us. Always ready to learn. Tune into 1873 FM. Your voice, your power.
and full of surprises. Starting from birth to death, it's my life story, an adventure of experiences. Oh, like an album on my last journey, I can outsource it, but I live through it. The story's written in seconds. It's second bringing with it hope and pain. The debt's not free. It's expensive, but it can be joyful.
I've been working on my days, working on my days. I've been working on my days, working on my days. I've been working on my days, I've been working on my days. I've been working on my days, I've been working on my days, working on my days. I've been working on my days, working on my days. I've been working on my days, working on my days. I've been working on my days, I've been working on my days.
D.O.D. minus D.O.B. my dash. Time is the currency of life, so use a second as if there's no other. So it's up to me to be wise about my dash, for I'm accountable for my actions. I make the choices and know the outcome, with time given for free by the Creator. I make the choices and know the outcomes, with time given for free by the Creator. Hey.
I've been working on my days, working on my days. I've been working on my days, working on my days. I've been working on my days, I've been working on my days. I've been working on my days, I've been working on my days, working on my days. I've been working on my days, working on my days. I've been working on my days, working on my days. I've been working on my days, I've been working on my days. I've been working on my days, working on my days. I've been working on my days, working on my days. I've been working on my
Okay, as we await to be joined in conversation by Danielle Gatsi, Julius Gapare, good morning to you, and good morning also to Emmanuel Mushengwe. Okay. Yes, glad to know that you are following and you are loving the conversation that is taking place on the 1873 FM's Santon Express morning show. So Julius Gapare says that economic inequality can only be corrected by drastic measures properly executed. Corruption and nepotism. Corruption and nepotism has to be punished severely, not cruelty, but in a deterred manner that is humane and at the same time discouraging such behavior. And yes, if you also have something that you also want to add and also contribute to this morning's conversation, feel free to do so. So what basically I'm getting from Julius is that the aspect of economic inequality can only be corrected by drastic measures properly executed. What is your take on the notion that where there is no rule of law, economic development is a mirage? I just want to hear from you. And more importantly, when you talk of economic inequality, what one comes to think of is then economic freedom. How best do you then that? How best do you don't you think that the best way that economic freedom can actually be secured is through a market system? And in a market system, there's always a willing buyer and a willing seller, where two parties engage in a transaction and agree upon exchange of value when it comes to valuables. What's your take on that? And I think what you're also raising is very fundamental. It's something that we need to look at in as far as measures that need to be taken in addressing some of these challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis. And what you raise in as far as corruption, nepotism, that such aspects ought to be individuals who are involved in such aspects ought to be punished. But when you look at just corruption and nepotism, one would tend to say this is actually a part of human behavior, which is when you look at nepotism per se, when one thinks of somebody that they can be able to employ, they think of individuals that already they know. And right about now, I think we have managed to get Danielle to join us in this morning's conversation. So as we get to have a conversation with Danielle, you can still continue adding your views to this conversation that we are having on the 1873 FM. Danielle, a wonderful morning to you, and thank you so much for giving up time to be on the 1873 FM this morning.
Morning, and thank you for having me.
Okay, Danielle, I don't seem to hear you at all. Let's see if...
Morning. Hello. Can't hear me. I can't hear what you're saying, ma'am.
Okay, I seem not to be able to get audio from Danielle, but let's see if we can be able to quickly get to reconnect with her and have a conversation with her this morning. Hi, Danielle, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Okay, let me see if I can get that technical issue resolved ASAP. But keep tuned on the 1873 FM's Santon Express morning show.
They can't hear me, mama. Mom, she tells us one anything you say, no tanga to tanga.
1873. 1873.
The envelope of knowledge on leadership literacy with Naledi Botina and myself, Tinashe Pasiri. You don't work for yourself. You work for the customer because it's the customer who pays you. You cannot invoice yourself, if that makes sense. Does that make any sense?
It does, Tinashe.
Yes.
But now, as you are saying, you are the same person that says we make our own decisions.
Okay, we make our own decisions.
We are individuals.
Yes, we are individuals. Good morning, Danielle. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Fantastic. Now we can be able to have a conversation. A wonderful morning to you. And thank you so much for giving up time to be on the 1873 FM this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
As we get ahead with our conversation this morning, before we actually get deeper in this morning's conversation, maybe if we could just kick off by getting to know who Danielle Gatsi is. And more importantly, I understand that you just recently matriculated. So we also would love to hear your journey of matriculating. And by the way, congratulations for matriculating with flying colors.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. My matric journey. Okay, let me start off with who Danielle is. Danielle is a very interesting person. I was very active in sports, leadership, at school, culture, as well as academics. So I did my best to balance everything. I also did music, which is something that I really enjoyed. And then my matric journey was very nice, very smooth because I had a very good support system from both school and from my parents. So the support system was very amazing and that helped me get through matric very well.
Wow, that's wonderful to hear that you had a support system around you that enabled you at the end of the day to realize wonderful results as you matriculated. So, I mean, Danielle, as this show, the 1873 FM Santon Express Morning Show, it runs under the theme In Search of the Future I Want. And all too often as individuals, we talk about the future that we all want, but rarely do we get to drill deep in just understanding what each individual, the kind of future they desire. So maybe if we could just hear from you. I mean, you have matriculated and you are still on this journey of life, trying to get ahead. What are your aspirations as an individual, and what kind of future do you want for yourself as an individual?
Okay, so for starters, I'm an accountant, and I really want to inspire others with my story. I know that now we have more women getting into the field, and that is amazing. And I also want to be part of those women that get into the chartered accounting field. I also aspire to open my own chartered accounting firm one day that offers something different to what we're used to, something that can help different companies get something different in terms of their services. So that is what I really aspire to do,
It's
and to
interesting
help
that you
women,
actually want
black
to be a
women.
chartered accountant, and I must say it is a very interesting journey as an individual who has also taken that path. I also served my articles in auditing and accounting with a firm called Spielman and
That's
Lifshitz Chartered
interesting.
Accountants, by the way. So I mean, going back to you because this morning it's all about you. Let's forget about Tinashe, but we really want to drill down to get to know Danielle. I mean, in as far as you being a chartered accountant, you say you want to inspire other individuals, and more importantly, you want to offer services differently from how most firms are serving their clients, serving their customers. So, talk to us in as far as just being a chartered accountant. I mean, there are definitely individuals that you look up to who happen to also be chartered accountants. So, if you were asked to name three individuals who happen to be women, also chartered accountants, that you can say inspire you, they are your points of light, they are the shining stars
Hello.
that you see when you look up the sky at midnight. Who would be these three women who inspire you, and why those three women?
Okay, so firstly, there's Nonkululeko Gobodo. She inspires me a lot because she was the first black female chartered accountant in South Africa, and that's not something that's easy to do. And she went on to opening her own accounting firm, which is something that I also aspire to do. And she was just not satisfied with just being an ordinary chartered accountant, and that's something that I strive for because I don't want to just be an ordinary person, but I want to go on and fight and succeed. I want to be satisfied with what I've done. And then there's also Manyara Chingunduru. She is a Zimbabwean entrepreneur, and she really inspires me a lot because I like how she was very clear in in wanted to create a business and she wanted to create a business
Have this conversation with her, and just to get to know just getting to know who Danielle is, getting to know who actually inspires Danielle, and more importantly, Danielle is a matriculant who is soon to enroll at varsity, and just understanding some of the challenges that she is facing, and how when we tell our stories as individuals, when we share our personal experiences as individuals, those challenges can actually be addressed. Whilst we are trying to reconnect with Danielle, feel free to also add your voice to this conversation, and more importantly, encouraging others to also be able to let their voice heard on issues that matter. So this show is a show that is open to everybody, no matter your age. Each and every individual, they've got a story to tell, and that story can inspire another individual. It will ignite another individual to think and act outside boxes, and more importantly, accelerate the aspect of building these communities where, as individuals, we have a common, we have a shared understanding. And yes, it takes just one individual at a time to be able to make a difference. Yes, Danielle, I had lost you there. When you were actually when you were actually sharing with us the second individual that actually inspires you, whom you said it's a woman entrepreneur. You can go ahead and tell us more why the second individual inspires you.
Inspires me. All right. So she inspires me a lot. Let me re-mention her name. It's Manyara Chingunduru. And she inspires me a lot because she was very clear in the business that she intended to build. Yes, she was a female, and yes, she wanted to build an accounting firm, but she was very clear in how she wanted her business to be distinguished from the other businesses that were around at the time. And that's why she really inspires me. And then the third and last person that inspires me is Zama Kanyile. And she inspires me a lot because she is an qualified chartered accountant. Went on to just normal, ordinary chartered accountant, which everyone can do these days. But so she's currently the African Woman Chartered Accounts President, which is a non-profit organization. So all these three women I mentioned inspire me because they did not settle for mediocrity, but instead they went on to doing more than what they knew they were capable of. So that is why they all inspire me a lot, lot, lot.
Okay, wow, that's very interesting. But I just want you to repeat the last individual that you say inspires you, their name again.
Okay.
Danielle, did you
The
manage to hear me?
last person who inspires me is Zama Kanyile. And she is a qualified chartered accountant, but she did not settle for mediocrity. She went on and on in the industry. Um, yes,
Okay, I
yes, I
got
can
the
hear
third
you.
person now. So, I mean, now moving
Hello?
forward, you happen to have recently matriculated, and and you are actually looking forward to actually
Can I continue?
advancing yourself in this area of accounting. And my understanding is that you have actually been accepted at the University of Witwatersrand for accounting science. Talk to us in as far as maybe the challenges that you have encountered so far as someone who is trying to enroll into varsity as a first year student to study something that they are really passionate about and something that they want to use so much to make a difference in the world and make a change. Hi, Danielle. Danielle, did you manage to get what I mentioned? Okay, it seems like though there is a bit of an issue in Danielle hearing me, but I do hope that she'll be able to hear me. Danielle, can you hear me? Hello,
Yes, that's
Danielle. Can
correct. I
you
was
are you able to
accepted at
hear
the
me?
University of Witwatersrand for accounting science for the year 2020. Hello? Yes,
Yes, you can go ahead. I can hear you now.
that is correct. I was accepted. Yes, I did. Definitely, yes.
Okay, yeah. So you can go ahead and just tell us. I mean, you have been accepted at the university. I mean, what sort of challenges did you come across in as far as just registering for that
Yes, I
particular
can hear you.
degree that you
Yes, I
want to
can hear you.
undertake, and more importantly, what else is
Yes, I
what
can
would you
hear
say
you.
are some of the challenges that you are facing after being accepted?
Okay, so the one of the challenges that I've been facing is finding funding for my university, and
Hello, seems like we've lost Danielle again, a connectivity issue, but nonetheless, we'll try to reconnect and be able to have this conversation. And it's good morning to each and every individual that is tuned in, that is listening to this conversation. Okay, Danielle, I lost you there for a minute, and you were stating that one of the challenges.
one of the challenges that I've been facing is finding funding um, for university. And it is very unfortunate that sometimes I'll look into some bursary requirements and see that academically I qualified, but because I'm not a citizen, I could not apply. So it has been a challenge because most bursaries require South African citizens. So that's a current situation that I've been facing. But other than that, everything has been going well. I went to the university and they told me what was required of me. So I'm just looking into finding funding for my university fees. Hello, I can't hear you. Mm. Mm. Wako-
every day, your effort, and somebody comes and states that, no, just because I'm black, I should have 50%.
No, that's not what it says. It says 50% black people should also be allowed in the same business.
But why should it be forced on you?
It's not forced, Snashe. You must remember that sometimes black people don't get hired because they are black. Remember, most of these things are owned by white people. And white people, unlike us, they take care of their own.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 1873FM. Hashtag 1873FM.
Well, it is the 1873 FM, your voice, your power, your voice on issues that matter, your power to inspire new thinking, new outcomes, and new possibilities. And it is the Santon Express Morning Show with your host, Tinashe Mpasiri, having a very interesting conversation with a young lady by the name Danielle Gatsi. And she matriculated recently with flying colors and has been accepted at the University of Witwatersrand. And basically, she is looking for a funding for her tuition fees. And yes, we will try to reconnect with her so that we can be able to have a conversation with her as she tells her story. As she has just also shared with us her journey of matric, how it has been, and the support that she got in order for her to be able to come to pass with flying colors. So Danielle aspires to be a chartered accountant and looks up to Nonkulelo Gobodo, Manyara Chingundura, as well as Zama Kanyile. And yes, it seems like we have Danielle back again. Yes, Danielle. We do sincerely apologize about the technical issues that we've been facing, but nonetheless, we can continue with our conversation. Before we disconnected, you were just reiterating of the fact that the challenges that you have come across as a non-citizen are securing a bursary for you to be able to advance your tuition studies. And I think the one aspect that I'd raised is that your mom has been knocking on several doors in a bid to also raise the tuition fees that you require. And apart from just knocking on doors, how else have you been trying to raise the tuition fees that you require for you to get ahead with your studies?
Okay, so I've opened a page on Becker Buddy. If you search, if you go to beckerbuddy.com and you search Danielle Gatsi, you'll find me there under the title University Funds. It's also something that I've done to make sure that I can get something to contribute towards my university fees.
So basically, if I'm getting you correct, this is also one way of crowdfunding the Back a Buddy page that you initiative that you have started. To date, how much have you managed to raise through Back a Buddy? Hello, Daniel. Okay. So it seems like having a bit of a connectivity issues, but nonetheless, if you are tuned in and you're listening to this conversation, Danielle is basically seeking funding for her tuition fees so that she can be able to get ahead with her studies at the University of Witwatersrand in South Africa. And she's pursuing a degree in accounting science, and she aspires to become a chartered accountant. If you happen to be in a position whereby you can also play a part in ensuring that Danielle can be able to get ahead with studies, well, she has managed to actually open up a page on Back a Buddy for university funding, and the fundraising target is 100,000 rand. So what I'll do for those who actually want to also play their part in assisting Danielle to get ahead with her studies, I'll share a link on this video that we'll actually live streaming on, so that you can be able to also make a donation if possible. And to those who happen to be in corporates and probably are in the corporate social investment department, well, feel free to also reach out to us as to how one can go about in accessing funding through the CSI initiatives that your corporate basically has. And yes, if you also happen to know other institutions that do avail scholarships, that do avail bursaries for students, particularly in the field of accounting, then that would also be very much welcome. So the link to Danielle's crowdfunding initiative for her to raise tuition fees for university studies, I have managed to also share it on the live stream that is currently that we are currently streaming on Facebook as well as other platforms. So all you have to do is simply click on that particular link, and you can make your donation towards Danielle's university funding. Well, on that note, hopefully we'll be able to get hold of Danielle once again and be able to wrap up this conversation. But nonetheless, to those who are tuned in, this is your platform for open, frank, and honest conversations in as far as shaping and defining the character and personality of the future that you want, the future I want, the future that we all want collectively. And what kind of future is it? How best do we secure a future which is inclusive, a future which is progressive, a future which is prosperous, a future where the divide between those who are wealthy and those who are poor, who are in poverty, can actually be bridged. And yes, looking at this morning's conversation, very much excited to be a part of this wonderful platform that allows people to tell their story. It is in storytelling. It is in storytelling that we can be able to actually understand each other better. And yes, through the 1873 FM's social media platforms, you can be able to reach out to us. And if you feel that you can be able to assist Danielle in any way, you can simply reach out to me, Tinashe Mpasri, through the 1873 FM's platforms, or even through Muchunga Mawere Facebook page. Be the change that you want to see, and be that individual who strives to be a solution to the problems that we face in our communities. I am because of the human problems that I contribute to solving. And this is one part I can actually play to enable individuals to have to express themselves on this platform each morning on the Santon Express Morning Show. On that note, we go on a short musical break, and here is sounds of Maxine, a member of the 1873 United Artists, with a track titled Working on My Dash. And wherever you happen to be, I do hope that you are also working on your dash.
It's all about my life. It's all about my dash. It's all about my life. It's all about my dash. My dash.
I've been working on my dash. Working on my dash. I've been working on my dash. Working on my dash. Working on my dash. I've been working on my dash. I've been working all my days. I've been working all my days. Working all my days. I've been working all my days. Working all my days. I've been working all my days. Working all my days. I've been working all my days. I've been working all my days.
It's linear with an inevitable end. A strand full of surprises, starting from birth to death. It's my life story, an adventure of experiences.
Yeah, we seem to have reconnected with Danielle. And yes, Danielle, it's unfortunate we're having some of these connectivity issues, but hopefully we'll be able to wrap up this conversation so that at the end of the day, those who are capable of assisting can also play their part in assisting in whatever way possible they can do. So I think before I lost you, I mean, I'd asked a question as to how much you have managed to raise so far through the crowdfunding initiative that you started on Back a Buddy.
So far, I haven't yet raised any money, but I've been spreading the word. I'm still sending it out to family, relatives, and friends. So the link is there. If you can help, that will be greatly appreciated.
Okay, so what I've done personally, I've shared the link on this live streaming video that we are currently having. And if there are any individuals who are or any well wishers who are willing to also assist in raising university tuition for Danielle, feel free to click that link and you can make your donation through that link. Those who are not able to do that through that link and might want a direct contact with Danielle's mom, you can simply reach out through the 1873 FM platform and we'll connect you to Danielle's mom so that you can play your part in contributing towards Danielle's university tuition. Well, Danielle, on that note, I really want to thank you so much for giving up time just to tell your story, and more importantly, just sharing with the world out there in as far as what you need to get ahead. And I do hope that through this initiative, the Banking on Africa's Future 10,000 Points of Light initiative that is powered by the 1873 FM, people will actually be able to also play a part in advancing yourself in as far as your university tuition is concerned. I wish you all the best in your endeavors, and definitely I'll be in touch through your mom and see how best we can all put our heads together and make use of this platform so that you can become the chartered accountant that you aspire to be. Your last words to our viewers and our listeners, what would be your last words?
Okay, so firstly, I want to say to you, thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for this opportunity, for the platform for me to share my story to the viewers and to the listeners. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope that you'll be able to help. And thank you to everyone who make a contribution in advance.
Well, on that note, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, Danielle. And yes, I wish you a wonderful day ahead. And may your actions inspire other young individuals who might be in a similar situation but do not know who to go to, and that they can be able just to use platforms such as the 1873 FM for them to be heard, because your voice is your power. And on that note, we wrap up this
Thank you so
conversation, and
much,
shortly we'll be
Betty.
speaking to Edzai Zobro, who happens to be celebrating his birthday today. As the 1873 FM, we believe that each day is a day to celebrate life, and a birthday is a reminder of a proof of life. So let's go on a short break, and we'll be back shortly. Stay tuned
Thank you
to
so
your
much.
channel of choice, the 1873 FM, your voice, your power. All right, all right.
I know leadership exists, but now my co-host over here, we now need
Thank you
to
so
convince
much.
him. He doesn't believe that leaders exist. He doesn't believe leadership does exist. And anytime someone says they are a leader, he asks for their address because he always says, where can I find this leader? What is this leader's address? How do we convince him that leaders do indeed exist?
You don't feel that you must be the first person to do it, but there's always somebody who will say, okay, let me take the book, let's write what we need to do here, where do we need to start. There's always that person who will facilitate for people to problem solve. And I think for me, initially, those are the small attributes of being a leader.
It starts with us, and we are the us. Always ready to learn. Tune into 1873 FM, your voice, your power.
It took time to realize that the time was out for a living is after all.